Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. So, I want you to close your eyes for just a second. Seriously, do it. Imagine setting out on, well, the most epic real-life adventure possible. We're not talking about a video game here or some wild action movie. I mean a genuine, boots-on-the-ground quest across the entire planet. Like, what if you just opened your front door today and started walking? And you just didn't stop? How far do you think you'd get? What kind of crazy wild jungles or deadly frozen oceans or massive hurdles would you actually have to face? Well, today we are unpacking the story of a real-life absolute legend who did exactly that. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this number right here is just mind-blowing. 27. That is how many years British explorer Carl Bushby has been walking. 27 years. He set out on this wild mission to become literally the only person in all of human history to circle the planet entirely on foot. Think about that for a second. He has been walking out there for longer than most of you watching this have even been alive.
But here's the kicker. Here is what makes this quest so legendary. When Carl first started out, he made this one ultimate, completely unbreakable rule for himself. No transport. Of any kind. None. Zero. No, hopping in a nice warm car when his legs are burning, no catching a quick bike ride down a steep hill, and absolutely no airplanes to just skip over the terrible parts. It is just his own 2 feet taking things step by agonizing step, all the way around the globe. Which brings us to this absolutely massive number, 47,000 kilometers. That's the sheer, honestly unimaginable scale of the dream he is chasing. I mean, to put that into perspective, that is longer than walking all the way around the Earth's equator. You can't even fathom the magnitude of courage and, honestly, pure stubborn perseverance it takes to even attempt something like this.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how we map it all out. Section 1, the ultimate global quest, mapping an epic adventure.
So, a quest of this giant scale doesn't just happen overnight, right? You need a map, a huge plan, and an incredibly long timeline. We aren't talking about a tough summer hike. We are talking about dedicating your entire adult life to literally just moving forward. Let's trace his steps real quick. Carl's epic journey began way back in 1998, starting right at the very bottom of South America, down in Chile. And from there, well, he just started walking north. Fast forward to today, nearly 3 decades later, and he's currently walking his way across Europe. If he just keeps putting one foot in front of the other, he's actually expected to finally return home in 2026.
Section 2. Surviving the Wild Jungle. The Deadly Darien Gap.
Look, you don't just casually stroll across the Earth without facing some major, real-life boss battles along the way. And his first massive challenge was the Darien Gap. This is a place down in South America where roads literally just stop existing. It's this incredibly thick, untamed wild jungle packed with dangerous wildlife, brutal terrain, and oh yeah, actual real-life smugglers. Now, almost anybody else would turn back, right? But Carl showed incredible courage. He navigated straight through this totally wild jungle, surviving purely on his wits, and eventually pushed his way right up through Central and North America, just step by steady step.
Let's move on and see how this builds. Section 3. Walking on Frozen Oceans. Crossing the Bering Strait. So as Carl traveled further and further north, those hot, sticky jungles totally disappeared. And he was suddenly faced with the completely different extreme, right at the very edge of the continent. Now, normally, when explorers hit the edge of a continent and see the ocean, they, get in a boat. But remember Carl's absolute, unbreakable rule? No transport. So how in the world do you cross the ocean that separates America from Russia? Well, you wait for it to freeze. Teaming up with a French traveler named Dmitry Kiefer, Carl had to brave the absolutely frozen Bering Strait. They were literally out there walking across shifting sea ice, right over the dark, freezing, deadly ocean water. And let me tell you, it was every bit as thrilling and terrifying as it sounds. See, sea ice doesn't just sit still. It floats and moves with the ocean currents. Because of that, Carl and Dmitry actually drifted 80 kilometers off course. And the craziest part? That happened while they were sleeping in their tent out on the ice. I mean, just imagine waking up and realizing the actual ground you're sleeping on has floated away into the open ocean. No way, right? But they fought through it, they survived, they made it to the other side, and they totally made history.
Section 4. Battling the Siberian Winter. Surviving the cold.
So the crucial point is that making it to Russia only unlocked the next completely terrifying obstacle. Imagine stepping outside your house in the dead of winter, but then multiplying that freezing cold by like 10.
-50 degrees Celsius. That is the actual temperature of the brutal Siberian winter he just walked right into. At that kind of extreme temperature, any exposed skin can freeze in literally a matter of minutes. It is incredibly dangerous just to stand outside, let alone try and hike thousands of miles through it.
And to make matters even harder, it wasn't just the bitter cold fighting against him here. Karl also had to deal with really strict visa rules in Russia. Basically, that meant he could only be in the country for a specific amount of time before he literally had to leave, go back, and reapply for permission to walk again. This brutal combination of freezing cold and strict government rules turned his crossing of Russia into this exhausting, stop-and-go 11-year test of pure, steady effort and sheer willpower.
Section 5. Swimming the Uncrossable Sea. The Caspian Sea Obstacle.
Okay, so after finally conquering Russia, you'd probably think the hardest parts were totally over, right? Nope. Karl then hit a giant body of water called the Caspian Sea. And because of the tricky country borders all around it, there was absolutely no way to go around it. It completely blocked his path. So let me ask you right now, how do you beat this level of the quest? How do you keep your golden rule of no transport when a giant uncrossable sea sitting directly in your way, and by the way, it isn't frozen this time? Take a second. What would you actually do?
Well, here's the absolutely unbelievable answer. You swim. Karl, joined by an amazing fellow adventurer named Angela Maxwell, literally swam across the entire Caspian Sea. It took them 40 agonizing days in the water, dragging all their gear behind them the whole way, but they actually did it. They became the only people in history to ever pull off a crossing like this.
And this brilliantly illustrates our final core lesson, Section 6, One Step at a Time, the Power of Daily Effort. This really brings us to the true secret behind Karl's entire journey. When you look at crossing an ocean or a frozen sea or walking for 27 years straight, it just seems completely impossible. But by stripping it down and just focusing on the very next step, Karl has managed to cross 27 different countries completely under his own power. He hasn't used a single car, train, or plane to cross any of those borders. Every single inch of that ground was earned with sweat, immense courage, and pure determination. He's conquered extreme, wild jungles filled with smugglers, scorching hot deserts, massive mountain ranges, and freezing, icy wastelands. I mean, it sounds like the plot of a superhero movie, but it's 100% real. And the magical superpower he used to achieve this totally impossible dream, it was simply steady, daily effort. Waking up every single day, refusing to quit, and just walking a little bit further. So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought. You probably aren't going to spend your next 27 years walking around the planet. But you definitely have your own massive dreams, right? Your own impossible goals that might seem way too big right now. But if Karl Bushby can walk across the actual Earth by just taking it one single day at a time, what big dream could you accomplish if you simply commit to putting one foot in front of the other? Keep exploring, keep dreaming big, and I'll catch you on the next Explainer.